Olá, sejam muito bem-vindos ao podcast Além dos Livros. Eu sou a Marta e, para não deixar a Tiffany olhar muito tempo para mim sem saber o que é que está a acontecer, porque o episódio de hoje vai ser em inglês, vou muito rapidamente trocar de língua. So basically, Tiffany, I just said that I didn't want to leave you hanging so much time waiting for me to switch back languages, so I'll just get into it. So as people have probably already understood, this episode is going to be in English. This is my first time doing it here in the podcast. I hope that is not an issue for anyone listening to us, but I'm just so excited to have you here that I could not invite you, and this is so interesting because we've known each other for forever.
A long time. I think this is amazing. It's like our first time talking to each other too.
It is. Like, how did we not get to do this before?
It's so
great. It is so interesting because I've been following you online for years. We've exchanged mail, and we even met someone we have in common, who is Chloe. Like I had the opportunity to meet Chloe Gong in 2023, and obviously I let her land safely, get in the car, go to brunch, but as soon as we sat down I was like, we have a friend in common. I've been dying to tell you this.
I love it. No, I remember she texted me. She was like, I'm with Marta. And I was like, wait, that's so exciting. I can't believe you met her before me. But
so you have to come to Portugal.
I will make my way. Yes, exactly.
So I am very, very happy for us to be doing this, and I'm very excited for people to get to know you. So I was wondering if you could shortly introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Tiffany. I was a book blogger, or still kind of am in the book community as a reviewer, as someone who's just like a big fan, very similar to how I met Marta back in the day, where we were both just sharing book reviews online. Eventually, I pivoted into Bookstagram, so on Instagram, a lot more sharing a lot of content around webcomics, anime, books. I was in grad school the last 2 years, so posting about that. And career-wise, my path kind of was trying to combine a lot of my passions for literature with wanting to do something in the business field, because that was what I was studying when I was in school. So before I went to grad school, I was a consultant. So I was doing very traditional strategy, management projects around HR transformation, growth strategies, very things that were interesting to learn in terms of skill set of how to be good at Excel and PowerPoint, but wasn't necessarily something I was super excited about because it was chemical companies or manufacturing companies or things that were not books and were not stories. So it wasn't something that I was very looking forward to do all the time. After I was in grad school, I ended up doing an internship with Libro FM, which is an audiobook company. They're a competitor of Audible for supporting independent bookstores. And there I did digital marketing. And what was nice about that was a lot of the work was very similar to what I did as a bookstagrammer or just within the book community. Because you have to know a lot of books, what's coming out every year, which is what we used to do, just tracking different titles, making Canva graphics, things like that. And after that internship, I was kind of doing my grad school route, and I ended up interning at HBO Max, which is a streaming platform, very similar to Netflix or Peacock or Disney Plus or Warner Brothers Discovery. And that was more because that was what I was doing beforehand in the business world. So I was doing a lot of growth strategy work there. And then after that, I did a very spontaneous but the coolest internship ever at Harper Collins Publishers, which is one of the big 5 publishers. And there I was working with their corporate strategy team across tech, digital partnerships, and then just pure strategy and innovation. And we'll talk more about that, but it was one of my favorite experiences ever. And after graduating a couple months ago, I started working full-time actually in film, so entertainment. So right now I'm at Universal Entertainment, so the company behind Wicked and How to Train Your Dragon, Minions, things like that, on the film strategy side. So very all over the place, but I think it's all rooted across this passion for storytelling and just bringing stories that I think people find a lot of connection to into their hands, whether that's through audiobooks, whether that's through physical books, whether that's through film. And I'm sure we'll talk. I don't know if I'm jumping here around here too much, but
this was a super nice introduction because I've been following you, of course, mostly on your Bookstagram. So I know your love for books, and I do remember now that you recalled it, your work with Libro FM. And it's so nice to see that even while you were doing your Bookstagram, your passion always led you to work towards books, even when you weren't. Like, I think that
yeah,
subconsciously you were working towards that. And I think that maybe we could pull back a few years. So when you
yes,
decided to create your Bookstagram, which I believe was, I created mine in 2017, 2016,
yeah,
2016.
yeah. I was like right around your time. I was 2017 too.
Yeah. So that's why I mostly recognize you from that time. But when you decided to create your Bookstagram, was it because you were looking for a community you could share your love for books with? How was your relationship with books until then?
Great question. I think so. I started book blogging my sophomore year of college, and I remember because it was finals week, and I just didn't want to study for finals. I was like, I'm tired of taking all these practice tests about like finance or accounting, and I just want to read books because like I was like on my phone reading just like at night, and that's what made me happy. And I was like, I want to just like do something to distract me, but I had just finished reading and I wanted to do something with it. And so one of my friends, Alexandra at Twirling
Yeah.
Pages, she had been in the community for a long time. And I think at one point I just like talked too much to her about it. She was like, you need to just like post online to other people who like this types of books. And so I created a Twitter, I created like a WordPress blog, and I started posting about like the books that I liked as a way to procrastinate for finals. And then I started meeting people and like following other people who had read those books, loved those books, were having like similar recommendations, like if you like this, you need to read this. And I think that's when I started falling a lot more into it. So growing up as someone who like always just loved reading at night, I think ever since like elementary school, I've had the good or bad habit of reading in bed for like an hour or 2 hours, like on my phone or on my iPad or like with a lamp, like before I would actually go to sleep. And so that habit just like kept up with me until literally even now. And so being able to do something with that in terms of like talking about it with social media has been really fun. And I think that's where you're able to kind of make a lot of the friendships that I did.
Yes, and that's honestly the best part. It's actually quite interesting that you mention, because I always assume people are my age. So it's quite interesting that you say that you created your Bookstagram in sophomore year of college. Okay, so slightly old. I'm 27.
I'm 27.
Wait, what? How?
Uh,
Because
because so
no, go for it. Sorry.
okay, I don't know how the school system is like, but we are in school like after high school, you're in college for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then it was COVID. And then I worked for like 3 years. And then I went to grad school for 2 years.
Yes, but do you not do high school until you're 18?
I think there's just like really weird things of like in the US, it's like when your birthday cuts off is when you are in school, like what grade you're put in. So
Okay.
I'm like young for my year.
Yeah, well, I would say so because when I created my Bookstagram in the same year as you did, I was in my what was I? So I think you have 4 years of high school. We have three. So I was in my second year of high school.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I was in
Wait, that's
2016.
crazy.
I was 17. So it was
Wait, okay.
so when I was 18, I was in my last year of high school, and when I was 17, I was in the year before that, so my second year of high school because we have three. So that's how you were
You
saying
created
sophomore year of college. I was like, what?
wait, you created in 20 your Bookstagram, like book stuff in 2017?
2016.
2016. Okay, I created like December 2017. So like maybe a year and a half later than you.
Okay. So December 2017, I was 18 in my first year of college.
Okay.
But you were in a software. Okay, well, we can discuss this later. But it's
Yeah.
actually it messed with my head so much. But it makes sense. Okay, that you say that you are younger for the year that you were in. But I think that, well, this leads me to my question, which was you were already studying at college.
Yes.
Because in my case, while I was still in high school, well, I always loved reading, so I knew that I could never follow, math or sciences. It was always humanities for me. That's why I ended up studying languages. It wasn't literature, but it was, languages. But you were already studying, and it was something related to business and management. Did you always know that you wanted to go towards that? Because I was going to ask if, like, books ever made you want to study, creative writing, English literature, publishing.
No, that's such a good question. Like, I studied business, but I think I just studied that because it was safe. I think it's like it takes someone really brave to study humanities or like literature or
Crazy
anything like
people, they are.
Because and now that I'm like past, like now that I've graduated, like it really doesn't matter what you study. Like you probably can still end up in whatever job as long as you're like doing the right skills, like doing the right internships, doing the right like prep work for yourself. Like you can totally make it work. But I think at the time I wasn't brave. I truly don't think I was brave enough to study publishing or English or like literature or anything like that. So I picked something that was very easy in that sense because business is like, there's a very straightforward path. Like if you study business, you can get a business job probably. Like if you study like English, you can do anything, like, but you have to like decide that yourself. You have to figure that out yourself. So I was like, okay, no. I can't do like STEM because that's really hard. So I'm going to study like accounting because there's a very clear right or wrong answer, right? So that was like my safe way of studying.
Okay, well, that does make sense. I think that also here were very much pressure to go into. Obviously, it will depend on the parents and the families. I think that sometimes I do joke with around my family, like, well, now I'm doing what I love, but I could be rich by now. Why did you tell me to pursue what I love? But they were always very fair to me in that sense, like do what you like. And I think that helped me a lot into going into something because I did not know what job I wanted in the future when I was applying to college. But I did know what I did and didn't like when it came to subjects and what I wanted to study. Publishing came to me at a very later time, and it was when I was doing my master's degree. I had a teacher. Obviously, I don't know if this is similar to you. That's why I'm explaining, giving some context. In the beginning of the first year of my master's degree, we had a subject that we had to do a final project. And if I wanted, I could take that project into my thesis. And my teacher asked us, okay, don't feel pressure to do something right now that you want to do your thesis on, because you can change it later, obviously. But if you could talk about a subject, anything, what would it be? And the obvious answer for me was books. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to do my thesis on this. Like, there's no way that I could get a publishing internship. There's no way I could get publishers to talk to me and I interview them and everything. But let's talk about books right now. And that's when it came to me that working in publishing could be a possibility. Did it ever, like while you were studying, did it ever occur to you that publishing was an option?
I think yes. But funny enough, like one of the reasons why I don't think I pursued publishing then was one, I didn't want to live in New York. Like I didn't want to live in New York. So I was like, okay, well, publishing's in New York, so it's not going to happen. And then I think it never really, I think I was always like, I like books, but I don't think I would ever like work in books, like in publishing itself, just because I didn't know it was possible. Because I knew I was like, I don't think I can be a marketer. I don't really want to do editorial. I don't think I should do sales or publicity. So like, truthfully, my skill set was like the business side. And so I was like, okay, well, probably not within publishing, then that makes sense. Or it's like, if it is, it's probably really hard to break into. So for some reason, I just like, it never occurred to me that it was something you could do while I was in college.
Yeah, because most people, and I'm guilty of this as well. Most people think about publishing and they think, yeah, editorial, so I should have studied writing, I should have studied literature, or
Exactly.
or even marketing, because they are the most visible parts of publishing. And lots of people reach out to me and tell me that they would love to work in publishing, but they did not study anything like that. And that's one of the reasons that I also wanted to talk to you and have you here, because you are doing something that it's not very common to see. Because in publishing, like, publishers are also companies, because so you need people working in finance, you need people working HR, you need people working business analysts.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that I would have loved, and obviously I'm loving having you here. But I did want to ask, so you were working in corporate, like in a corporate business, and
Yes.
how did you do the change to publishing?
So I
Like
think
all the gossip.
no, I think one, it's that I was in grad school and it just so happened. So hey, so I was working in corporate and then I like didn't really like the job. I was like I was learning a lot, but it was like really intense, like work hours. Like I had one project where I was like, I got into the office at 8 a.m. I didn't leave until 2 a.m. the next day. And then I'd come back again at 8 a.m. And so I was just like, it was really like affecting me. And I was like, I don't think I can do this job forever. And at that time, I was already applying to grad school. And I was having one of those like existential, like quarter life crisis where I was just, let me go on LinkedIn and then just see what other people are doing. Like, if I wanted to leave this job, right, what have other people who have done this job done next? And so I was just like looking everywhere. I was looking like, okay, maybe this person ended up working at Uber Eats, or this person ended up working at Target, or like whatever. And so I was kind of just like, I knew I was going to grad school. So I had like 2 years to kind of like be a student again, like start again from zero, and kind of reset what I wanted my career to look like. And as I was doing like the stalking of people of like what other people did, I also ended up kind of just like looking to see what are companies that I think are cool that I would want to work for. And so I was like LinkedIn stalking like Sanrio, like the Hello Kitty company. I was looking at Penguin Random House. I was looking at Book of the Month, Libro FM, like everything. And I was just like looking at every people there and seeing what did they do beforehand and like how did they end up making the jump to wherever they are now. And I think, so one of the things I did was as I was like a month away from leaving my company and about to start grad school, I cold emailed the president of Libro FM. And I was just like, and I did this for a couple other companies, and I don't know, some people replied, some people didn't. And I was like, hey, I am like a consultant and I'm going to grad school, but like if you ever need an intern, like I love your company, like just let me know, like I'm here.
Just let me know. I'm available.
I'm available. Like I'm a student again. I have some free time. So I think I did that for like Libro FM. I did that for Wattpad. I did that for like some people at Webtoon. Just like a bunch of random companies that I personally thought was cool. Some people let me do coffee chats with them.
And then that's so nice.
It was so nice. And they were just like telling me about how they got to where they are, because I think I like a lot of them were also consultants too, or some of them were consultants. And I just kind of like came to them asking like, hey, I'm a consultant. I don't want to be a consultant forever. And I saw that you moved into something that I think is cool. How did you do that? How did you know you want to do that? Like just all the questions. I had no shame, which is good or bad. Like genuinely no shame to ask them.
But I definitely understand you. Now I'm getting excited about this. I met Jack Edwards yesterday. And the reason that I got a picture with him is because I have no shame.
No, exactly.
I just walked up my friends. My friends were fangirling. Oh my God, Marta, there's Jack Edwards there. And I was like, let's go. We're meeting him. Yeah. I don't care.
Like, the worst someone can say is no. And as long as you're polite, if they say no, like, don't push it. Like, don't be rude.
Of course. That's also something, because, and I'm sorry for interrupting you. It's just because I know that a lot of people who will be listening to us have said to me already, I don't know how you can do it. And the thing is, as long as you're nice, people will most likely not say no to you. And if they do, it's either because they're hella busy and obviously have no time, and it's not your fault. It's not their fault. It's no one's fault. Or because they are not someone you want to have in your life.
Exactly. You said it perfectly. I think one nice thing about working like as a book blogger and Bookstagram was it gave me a lot more confidence and just like YOLO, right? You're putting yourself out there. And I think that helped a lot when I was leaving my consulting job. Because I don't know how much you know about like corporate consulting, but a lot of people don't leave. Or like a lot of people, like if they go to grad school, they end up going back after, because sometimes the company will pay for your grad school for you to like go back and work for them.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
So that was something a lot of my friends were doing. And they were like, why would I not do that, right? Like it's getting paid for. And I was like, yeah, but then you have to go back and work for them for 2 years. And if you know you don't like it forever, why would you continue doing that? I think obviously like pros and cons. But anyway, at the time, I reached out to a bunch of these people, whatever. And then I just like started again in my grad school program. And I think right before I started, like the August before, so I left my job end of July or June, end of June. In August, I got, sorry, timeline-wise, this is so poorly.
No, don't worry.
I knew I was leaving that job because I got into grad school December 2023. Let's say that. December 23, I got into grad school. Because I knew I was going to grad school, I knew I was going to like leave my company sometime the following summer. And so because I had that confidence of like, who cares? Like I'm leaving. Like I can now just like ask people to see what is, not who cares I'm like doing a bad job, but like who cares, like you now have the option to kind of like create your own career path of like what is next, because you're not bound to this company again for however many years. So I ended up just like emailing people across LinkedIn, like from March to May to like June. And then I did end up doing a coffee chat with someone from Libro FM, and they were like, unfortunately, we're not hiring right now, but like, it was really cool that you reached out. Like, that's like, I wish you all the best, blah, blah, blah. And then in August, they had an posting that they needed an intern. And I saw it, my friends saw it, they sent it to me, and I applied. And I didn't think much of it because, one, like I wasn't sure if I was like the right tenure. I wasn't sure if I was like, because I think interns can be like anything, but sometimes you don't know if they want someone fresh who like doesn't have any job experience, so they can like truly mentor you from the ground up, or if they like don't really care. And luckily in my case, they didn't really care, and they were willing to take someone who already had some work experience. And it helped because I think I was doing a lot of the book stuff that I was previously doing. And so luckily that was able to become like an actual internship that I did my first year of grad school. And it was so fun because that was my first taste of what publishing could look like from like an audiobook tech platform side. Just seeing like, how do people think through, like, how do you work with like the consumer side, just because it was a lot of social media. So like, what do people look forward to? What are the big seasons? What are some of like the very early terminology that I was learning? And that was kind of like my time working with Libro. I totally forgot the initial question, but yeah, that was how I ended up at Libro.
Yeah, it was more or less how did it happen? But after you did that internship with Libro, did you go back to corporate? Because that's when I
did.
Okay, yeah, you did. Okay.
Yeah. So like, for grad school, I did an MBA. And I think what a lot of people typically do in an MBA is it's a 2-year program. And then during that summer, people do an internship. I was applying
MBA
to like
sounds like a very grown-up thing to do, though.
You say that, but actually, I don't know if that's true. I sometimes
At
people
least
say MBA.
here, I think so, because MBAs is people who are like senior roles do it.
I think it's like all over. I think the interesting thing about an MBA is like you don't need to have it. It's not like med school or law school. Like you need to have it for your career. It's more of like at least in the US, I feel like most people do an MBA because one, you need it to get promoted to like a very higher level, a much higher level that like you can't get without an MBA. or two, you're changing jobs. And that was my case. Like I was working in something that was like pure like business strategy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work in entertainment or media, something of the sort. And it's really hard to break into that if you don't have like, if you didn't do that right out of undergraduate. So that was one of the big reasons why I ended up doing this program. So then that summer, I had applied like during my first year to different jobs. I think I could have interned at Libro that summer too, but I knew that with Libro, that was more of like a marketing position, and I didn't want to only do marketing. I knew I wanted to try something more business strategy, just in media. And so luckily I got a job at HBO Max, so Warner Brothers. And I was doing like competitive strategy work, which is like very similar to what I did like in traditional corporate. So it was like, Netflix has this many subscribers. Like, how does that compare to how many subscribers we have? Or like, if we want to enter a new market, like, what should we be thinking about? So it was very like, it was less fun, like in terms of like the marketing social media side, but it was like much more what I was used to and stuff that I like really enjoyed. And it was also a really great internship because it was like big company. Like I was there when Superman came out, so it was like a lot of hype and it was really cool. So I think that kind of gave me a good sense of like, this is what I am actually like really good at. And I know I like doing it, but publishing was like, or at least like Libro was like a really great way for me to truly experience like what it would have been like to work in this industry or like just books that I love. So I think that was like how things segued. I also think like, we talked a little bit about this before the call, but like in publishing, at least, like sometimes you don't know when people are hiring. Like it's just like whenever it comes up, it comes up. And I think that was the case with Libro too. Like it was no guarantee that you were going to get a full-time job after this internship. So as much as I loved it and I loved the team and the team was like amazing, they were very transparent of like, we don't know what things are going to be like. And so it was truly just like a 1-year internship. So I knew that like as I thought about full-time job after I graduated, I needed to be thinking like what else is out there and just like throwing my job application literally everywhere. And so that was like how I ended up at Warner Brothers like for my internship. And then second year, I think I wasn't really doing anything my first semester, so like the fall. And then in December, I was getting really stressed because my roommates had job offers like when they graduated in May, and I haven't had a job offer yet. Mainly because like the job timeline is very different depending on what industry and what job you're doing. If you're doing something like traditional finance or traditional consulting, like you will get your job offer much earlier than if it's something in the entertainment, or they call it like non-traditional because it comes up whenever it comes up. Like those will be much later. And so I think it was like winter break. I was home, I was stressed, and I was just like, I need to find a job. And then I just like was stalking LinkedIn. And then I think for some reason I saw Harper Collins posted about like a strategy internship. And I opened it and I was reading through it and I was like, oh, this sounds like very similar to what I do. And I'm pretty sure I've applied to like some publishing internships just for fun, like the year prior, just like for the summer. Did not get them. Like was not like I think I applied for like an editorial one. Obviously was not qualified.
But did you hear back from any of them, even to say no? Or
yeah, but it was they like said no. And then for this one, for Harper Collins, I think because it was like a business role, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna just apply in YOLO. And I remember sitting in bed and thinking like, I'm not gonna get this. Like this is like, you're never gonna like what? But then again, YOLO, right? Like,
you never know.
So I just applied.
I mean, you never know. I already knew the answer was going to be no, because now with Brexit and everything, I cannot even apply for jobs, like to get an interview, without having a visa for the UK. But I reached out. I don't even know what publisher it was, but they had an opening. And I was like, I know that I cannot apply for this, but like, do you know if, because they do sponsorships sometimes, like, do you know how often do you do sponsorships? They replied, they were very nice to me. They were very sad to say, I'm so sorry, Marta, we do not, but we hope for the best. So you just have to put yourself out there.
Exactly. I think you really never know. So I applied to that. And then I think a week later, I got an email and they were like, oh, we want you to interview. And I was like, okay. And then I interviewed and they asked a lot about like my background and what I did. And I think my gut instinct here was like right, where that a lot of what they were like asking me about was my traditional business background, which was like, okay, that's crazy. Like you need business people.
Yeah.
And so that's how I ended up getting that job offer or like that internship offer. And part of me had never thought that it would be possible just because I was in New Haven, Connecticut, which is like 2 hours by train away from New York City. But they were like, it can be part-time remote. And they like were totally open to that. And so I ended up doing it part-time remote. And like they were able to make it happen. Like it was like totally possible. And then we can talk about like what that internship actually looked like. But it was awesome. Yeah.
But did you have, so you were doing part-time remote, but on the days that you had to go to the office, was it a big commute?
It was-ish. So, okay. So once I got that offer, I was like, I need to make this happen. I don't care like what my class schedule looks like. This is happening.
Oh, you were
And so I
studying
was,
at the same time, right?
yeah, so this is spring. And so the nice thing about MBA is that we don't have classes on Fridays. And if you plan your schedule correctly, you can not have classes on Thursdays. So I would talk to them and I was like, oh, what if I came into the office once a week? Originally, I was going to say Friday, but they're like, no one's in the office on Friday. So they're like, you can come in on Thursdays. And so I planned my schedule and my classes, but I would only have classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I wouldn't have classes on Thursday. And so on Thursday in the morning, I would like wake up at 6 a.m., take a train. Like I took the 7:50 train. I got into New York at like 9:30. By the time I got to the office, it was 10. And I would stay in the office from like 10 to like 5:30. And then I would either take the train home that night and then get home by like 9 p.m. Or I would like stay with a friend or like, because luckily I have friends in New York who are very nice and let me sleep on their couch. But most of the time, if not, I would like go back the same day. And I was able to make that work. And it was great because I think like it wouldn't have been the same experience if it was only remote. I was only talking to like my team. But because I was there, I was able to kind of like do coffee chats with people. And people were I was like, hi, I'm an intern. I think what you're doing is cool. Like, I don't know anything about editorial, but I would love to like learn from you and just like hear about what you do. And so I was able to do that across like marketing, editorial, like sales, like publicity. And that kind of like was one of the big like best parts about the internship, like getting to work in the office and seeing just like all the books they have there.
I do understand you because
like, before I was,
because I was as I was telling you before we started recording the episode, I used to work in the office in Lisbon, but still living in Porto, and that's a 3-hour train ride. So I was also going to the office like once a week ish. And still the same thing. So I wake up at 6 a.m. as well. I get to the office at 10, leave at like 5 something, get home at 9, 10, or otherwise sleep at friends. So I definitely understand that. And it was very tiring, but at some time you stop feeling the tiredness because you honestly get used. I mean, I don't know if you did get used to it. I did it at least. Like people will tell me, oh, you go to Lisbon once a week. That must be exhausting. I don't even feel it anymore.
Like
but now
I fall
that
asleep on the train or something.
But now I have an in-person job, like every day into the office, and it's very different. But it's a positive different, like getting to know people, getting to understand how teams work collaboratively every day in the office. It's honestly rewarding. So I do understand loving the office environment and getting to talk to people, especially when you're the new person.
Exactly. I agree. And I think one of the best parts was I had a mentor when I was there. She was like 3 years older than me, and she was on my team. And I think they were also like very aware of the fact that like this is truly an internship. You're just here to learn. Unfortunately, like publishing doesn't always hire full time, and it's just like how it is sometimes. But she was so excited for me. Every week when I was in the office on Thursdays, we would have like 30 minutes to an hour together and just talk about anything, whether that's originally started off as like, how did she get into publishing? Like, what does she do? What are some of the work that she does? Like all that stuff. And then it became like fun conversations, like,
Yeah.
oh, you're running a half marathon. Like, how's that going? Or how is the move like? Or with all these things. And then when I told them that I found a job offer for full time, they were very supportive and very happy. I think in the beginning, I was really scared that people would be like, oh, like she got a different job. But they were so understanding of the fact that like, no, we know it's because like our company right now isn't automatically hiring. So you should be looking for other jobs. So they were very caring in that sense. And I really appreciated that.
Oh, that's lovely. I did notice, however, I'm sorry, that I did get a little bit ahead of myself and I started working about your day-to-day life and your commute and everything. But while I still
Yeah.
wanted to ask about your, but you know, if you don't mind, people are used to it. I talk about point A, and before I talk about point B, I talk about point C, and then I get everything mixed up. But about recruitment process, I did want to ask because you mentioned that publishing offers are all in New York City. And well, in UK it's mostly the same. It's everything in London, and in Portugal the same. It's mostly everything in Lisbon. I think that we have maybe two companies related to, no, three, one smaller-ish related to books in Porto. Otherwise, everything else is in Lisbon. So I will maybe say that the recruitment process was quite competitive. Did you have a sense of that? Did you know how many people were applying? How long was your recruitment process?
My recruitment process was really short, but that's because it was a winter internship. I
Okay.
think if it was like a summer internship or like a fall internship, it would be much harder. Like summer internship, hardest for sure. But because it was a short internship from February to April, uh, and they wanted someone who could work like 20 hours, it 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 weeds out a lot of people maybe who like would
Okay.
have applied. And then I was
Also, maybe
working,
because you were applying for a business position.
I was applying for a business position. I think other roles are definitely more competitive. Because on my team, it was me and another girl, and both of us were masters. We both had master's degrees. So already you're kind of filtering out everyone who's an undergraduate. So that was like one piece to it. And then I think because it was based in New York and I could travel, that also was like another filter.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a really short process where like I applied sometime in December, like the third or fourth week of December, interviewed in January, and then I heard back the same day in January.
Okay.
So I like interviewed with two people on the team in the morning, like at 9 a.m. or something. And then later on in the afternoon at like 3 p.m., the recruiter called me and was like, we would like to extend an offer. And I think that is very atypical for
I mean,
publishing.
I
And
would
I
say
too,
so. From what I usually hear, I mean, from my own experiences, from friends' experiences, and from what I hear around, you know, the publishing world, I would say that's very atypical. But that's great. It means that they were in need and they loved you.
yeah, no,
Uh,
exactly. I think it was like this team was small. So they like needed people, and then
they knew what they were looking for, and it was you.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the big reasons why. If it were any other role, I think I would have struggled a lot more. But yeah.
But for example, at least here, people worry about what they should take to an interview. And there are very mixed reviews about whether you should mention side projects about books, for example. I usually include my Bookstagram on my application process. And I've received both enthusiastic and not so enthusiastic reactions from interviewers, and I would love to know, like, from what you know about your experience and others around you, do publishers in the US, of course, react okay and excited about having, like, a book club, a bookstagram, a book blog?
Yeah, definitely. I think on the Harper Collins cover letter, they I think explicitly write, like, we want people who care about books, so like please share your genuine enthusiasm. So I'm pretty sure I had like a whole paragraph about me like loving Harper Collins books. I specifically called out like BK Borison's books, like R.F. Kuang, obviously. Like I was like, I know your books and I care. And then during the actual interview, they ask questions related to like how much they don't want to test, like how much do you know from the business side, right? And so they ask about your past projects, like more of like a case study type of questions, if anything. And then they'll also want to know how much do you know from the book side. So I think they asked me like, what was the last book that you read? And then I'll be like, oh, I read The Calabasas, da 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 da.
Which is amazing.
Which is amazing. And then they would also like, I would bring up then like, these are some of the things I did in books. It was interesting too, because I remember I brought up my Libro film experience, and I was telling them about like, I can do social media, like I can do content for you. And they're like, oh, actually, no, like we want to know like the business, like your Excel experience, things like that. And then you're like able to pivot and share that experience. So I think it doesn't hurt to bring it up. And if anything, they will try to steer you towards, okay, but do you have, can you talk to this piece of what we are looking for in the job application?
Okay, but it's good to know that most people are looking forward to it, and side projects and everything else, because it's a good thing to have, honestly.
It's a good thing, yeah.
And now that I got all of the questions about the recruitment process out of the way, the funny thing is, now I do understand a little bit more about what does a business analyst, but I'm probably guessing that some people listening to us maybe will not know. So I was wondering if you could explain what your job was, what your role was, what your day-to-day life was as well.
Yeah, so I think as a business analyst, you don't touch the creation of a book at all, which is, you could call it the bad part. But the cool part is you are touching everything else that runs the business in terms of like, where can publishing go? What can we optimize for? And so some of the things that I was doing was, for example, like my manager will say like, we're interested in this X, Y, and Z partnership. Can you help us look into it and like see what this could look like? Tell us about this company that wants to partner with us. What are some of the ways that we could do that? Another example would be, I'm trying to think through what I can talk about. So I think Harper Collins had announced like something with microdramas a while back. That was an example of something I worked on. We were just like very early on in the project. I was like in charge of understanding and explaining to executives what are microdramas and why is there potentially a fit with publishing. And here you're kind of explaining like, this is what it is, and then this is what publishing offers, and this is where we can like meet in the middle. And so you take that information and you can go to your boss and say like, here are all the ways that we could potentially work with a microdrama company if we wanted to. And then that's kind of how it spins into a bigger project. Some of the other projects that I didn't work on, but what the team would work on is mergers and acquisitions. So for example, if Harper Collins wanted to purchase a imprint or an indie publisher, that's something this team would do. You would look to see, do we already have an imprint that is very similar to this? So like, is there a need for it? And if there is a need for it, you're understanding like, okay, well, where does it fit within the business? Like, where should it sit under? What are some of like the profitability, like profit lines? Like, where can we get good money out of it? Like, do we think it'll do well? Do we think it fits well with our center, like with what we offer? Another example might be like, at this time, Harper Collins had acquired Crunchyroll in Germany and France. So that's like an anime thing. And I obviously like anime. And so I was kind of able to explain and like look into that a little bit more, see, okay, since we did this, what else should we do? Like what else within anime makes sense? maybe other publishers have like anime arms. Is that something HarperCollins needs to be looking into? So that's some of like the line of logic that you would be thinking about. In terms of the actual work, because these are very big picture questions, this is where you really draw on like the business skill set of the day to day. So you might be doing something like doing like a competitor mapping, for example. So take M&As. Another project you could potentially do is like, okay, within 2025, the last year, what was all the M&A activity that happened across the big 5 publishers in the US and the big publishers in the UK? And so I'll do something like, okay, Harper Collins, Simon Schuster, Penguin Random House, like Hachette, like Macmillan, whatever, and see, okay, they bought this imprint, they bought this imprint, they launched this imprint, they closed this imprint. What does that tell you about the overarching trend of the publishing industry? And is there a specific like activity that someone did you think really stands out that maybe we should look into a little bit more? If one company purchased like an academic publisher, for example, like what does that mean? And like, are we playing in that field and how will that impact us? So that's something that you might do. A lot of it is like looking at Publishers Weekly, all the different like websites to see what are the major deals and news. And then another piece to it would maybe even being like going into actually Excel and looking at like, okay, what are some of the different data cuts that we need to do to kind of tell the story? That kind of gives, I hope that kind of gives a taste of like what the business person does.
Having the word business in it, I would say that I would have guessed that it was a more strategic side of the business. Exactly. It is interesting to see how you're looking into competitors and what they're doing and what you should be doing, and you're looking into trends and what's coming up. So that's very interesting. I also understand that you probably can't talk about specific projects, but thank you for mentioning some of them. But while you did say that you do not touch anything regarding the creation of a book, I did want to ask, do you ever collaborate with other teams?
Yes, I think, okay, so one of the teams within HarperCollins was called Business Process Reengineering. And essentially what like I did under that work stream was within corporate strategy, it's like, how do I make your job easier? And that can be something like, I'm using this vendor on this side under editorial, but then this other imprint under HarperCollins is using this vendor. And maybe this other person doesn't know that vendor B is way better than vendor A because they don't talk to each other. So like, how can we make those like discussions happen? And you're kind of being like a project manager, but on the corporate level to work with them. So you're not working with them in terms of like, this is the book, this is how we're going to like make it happen. But it's more of like your day to day, you're using like Edelweiss, NetGalley, like whatever it is. Or even like, if you're a designer, you're using this type of like editing software. Maybe you need something new. Maybe you need something that's different. And that's where you would talk to someone maybe like on corporate strategy so that we can kind of make the case for you that we need to invest in something so that you can do your job better.
Yeah. Okay, but that's interesting. And also something that stood out to me when you said that, well, obviously I knew that you had studied business and that you were now a business analyst. One thing that stood out to me is that maybe you have a different perspective on this, and maybe we can talk about it more, which is, we were talking about it beforehand, which is the romanticization of the publishing industry. So lots of people don't realize that there are several jobs opportunities within publishing, because you need HR, you need finance, you need legal, you need acquisitions, you need everything, not just editorial and marketing slash PR. So I will call it that, which are the jobs that people look more often. And I believe so because they tend to be the ones that are most seen and the most glamorous, because you get books, you get to read books, you get to meet authors, you get to hang out at launch parties and everything. And so I think that because they are mostly seen, they're also the most wished for. And maybe for people outside of it, it might seem very, grand and glamorous and everything. And sometimes I fear that people might miss the point that publishing at the end of the day is still a business. The goal is to sell books, which, having in consideration that it's books and they have a huge impact on people's lifestyle and culture and development, it's actually, sometimes it's a bit sad to think about it, but it is the goal to sell books. And I was wondering, I was wondering if working with data and business within the publishing industry helped you somehow shift this perspective, or if you could, say something or share something that could help people understand that it's not that bad that it's to sell books, at the end of the day.
No, definitely. I don't know. That's such a hard question because I think
it
that's
is.
something...
I'm sorry to put you on this spot.
No. And I don't even know if I have the right answer for that. I think, this is so hard. I would look at it in different ways. One, it's you're probably or at least on my side, everything that I think about on the corporate strategy side within publishing is how to ensure publishing survives and thrives and kind of succeeds in its own right as an industry, especially when you compare it to other entertainment/media industries. Because if you think about film or journalism or music, sometimes people don't put publishing in the same bucket. They think of it as a laggard. And so if you want to think about not just making money, but how to make sure publishing stays relevant, you have to figure out how to elevate it and what are the partnerships or things you can do to elevate it to its peer industries. So that's one part. And then the other part is maybe, I don't know. Another thing is okay, sometimes when you work a job, whatever job it is, you'll have days where you think it's boring, or you'll have days where it's just, it's a lot less sexy. It's a lot less fun. You're just looking at Excel or you're looking at a PowerPoint. It's not fun. And that day will pass. And then you'll end up working on something you think is really cool and exciting. And you're okay, yeah, this is why I love this job again. Things will ebb and flow. And I don't know if this is even an answer to your question, but
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
It's because I definitely wanted a different perspective, because as I worked, before I used to work in marketing, now I do more PR stuff. But it's because I'm on the glamorous scene side that I'm not entirely sure how to explain to people that yes, this is a real job. Yes, it matters. Yes, I'm doing something. I'm not just just walking around partying and whatever. But also that what I do is intended to sell books.
Yes. No. Okay. Yes. I think sometimes as a bookstagrammer, right? On the book, as a creator side, you'll look at things and you'll be they're giving out so many arcs, or there's this really cool event, and you're I want to go. How do I go? And having worked at some of the companies, I still can't go because I want the system, and it's fine. But it's also you're understanding more now about, and this is through coffee chats, some people who are in the social media side, a lot of what they're thinking of is not just, it's twofold. It's one, how do I sell more of this specific book? How do we move those units? But then long term, how do you make sure that Harper Collins or X, Y, and Z publishing house is known as a brand so that people will want to go out and look at the lesser known books? Because if you think about a company like Disney or Universal or whatever, specific titles, and if there's a sequel to that title, you might get it. But then if there's a brand new book that no one has heard of yet because it's a debut, it's hard for someone to pick it up unless there's a lot of good word of mouth, unless it's from a parent company that people know. And part of that effort is building that branding, not just around a specific book, but around the entity as a whole. So I think it's really layered in that sense. It's hard to just sell one book, let alone multiple books down the line. So how do you split your marketing dollars, whatever it is that you have, to make sure things are even across? I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, it does make sense because after a few years doing this, both on the creator and on the, behind the scenes of a publisher side, you do understand how decisions are made,
Hmm.
and you understand the logic behind it. It's quite hard to explain to people because this wasn't planned, but now that you mentioned the topic of, arcs and events, we don't do arcs in Portugal. I mean, it's not a habit. I think there was once an author who did it, but we don't typically do it. But what's common right now is partnerships. It's regular partnerships with book content creators. So at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year, you open a forms. People can, apply, and then you choose the ones you want to work with um, during the rest of that year. And there is always a lot of, well, the best word is drama for it. There is always
Yeah.
a lot of
It's like that in
controversy.
the US too.
It
It's
is, it
like,
is, and it's quite fun to follow along, but also a bit frustrating because y- there are people who are obviously just applying for the sake of having free books, and they will
mhm.
eventually complain, oh, it's a publisher, they should be giving more books. That's not how it works. And you could have a very, very good page, but sometimes the publisher will know that even if you don't qualify as a partner, you will still buy and talk about their books. So
Exactly. I think you said it well. Like, I get rejected for books and arcs, and like I've been dropped from art like partnership programs, and it sucks. But I
how
also
dare
think back to it and I
they?
was like, no, but then I like, okay, so I got dropped from Berkeley Romance, which was like one of the best ones. Like, I love Berkeley Romance and I love all their books. And then I remember when I got dropped from them, I felt so sad. And then I was like thinking about it and I was like, okay, to be honest, Tiffany, like you were not a good partner. Like, you were not posting a lot of the books that you got. Like, there were people who are much smaller than you and they put in the work. Like, you you're butthurt right now, right? But like, what they did was valid. So like, you can be butthurt, but you like, they were valid about it. And I got invited to other partnership programs because I started posting more about other books. And so like, it's sometimes it sucks and it won't feel fair, but never things are never like malicious against like you
No,
personally
it's
as an
not.
individual. Exactly.
It's mostly, I mean, sometimes, well, I pride myself in knowing either the handle or the name of the people. I will never, either the face, the name, or the handle. I will not know the three of them at the same time. But
Hmm.
most times, there are creators that publishers will not know. For them, you are someone on the screen that creates content, and they do not know you personally. For this, I'm not meaning that they don't care about you and they will discard
Yeah.
you, but they don't know you personally. Maybe they have never met you at an event, so they have nothing against you. For some reason, you just didn't qualify.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I did a coffee chat with some people on like the marketing side of like Harper Collins. And I remember having very similar like thoughts because I remember at one point, well, one, I send like email requests like for coffee chats to people, right?
Yeah.
And then let's say they don't reply the same day. And I'm like, oh my God, they hate me. And then they finally reply the next day and you're like, oh, no, they were just busy. And it's like a similar thing. You actually like go talk to them, right, in person. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so busy. I get so many emails. And like afterwards, I was like, oh, Tiffany, you were being so silly. Like, you were freaking out about them not responding to like one coffee chat email. Like, they get so many emails
Yeah.
and they get so many more than like, well, one, an intern, but also arguably more than the regular business side because they're getting it from not just like people within the business, they're getting it from people who are requesting
Hmm.
books. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's like, I think something that I've learned more as I've gotten older is just like one, like we should be brave and like YOLO, like you should shoot your shot, but also two, you're shooting your shot. If someone says no, it's never really like
Yeah, don't
because
take
of
it
you as a
that
person.
seriously. That's
Exactly,
also something
exactly.
that I'm struggling and trying
It's
to cope
hard.
with. It is. I mean, I've mastered the art of YOLO, I believe. Sometimes I get anxious, but we live and we learn. But the art of learning, of understanding that people don't own me anything, and
Exactly.
that's the thing. And sometimes, but it makes sense. I don't mean to say that I feel like I'm special, but the thing is, I am the main character of my own life, so it is easy to sometimes take it personal, and it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you just have to remind yourself it's not personal. These people don't know you. They don't own you anything. Just move on with your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I promise that I will not take much longer out of you, but I am having so much fun. I did have here some other questions, but I believe the answer will be quite obvious. So, do you think there is a misconception that you need a literature or humanities degree to work in publishing? Based on your
No.
answers, I would say no. But then I had some more interesting questions, which are for people who are looking into going into publishing. And not for, well, maybe the advice will serve people going into mainstream roles, but people who are applying for non-traditional roles, so people who are more on the behind the scenes of publishing, what would you say like is your biggest advice? What skills to highlight and how to approach publishers?
I think, okay, strictly from like the business side, skills to highlight is like knowing Excel, knowing how to manage data. Like, I think some of the tools people use are like Power BI, like Excel, PowerPoint, all those things. But then don't just be able to speak to like, I use this one tool, but it's also how did I use this tool in the broader sense of the project. And it doesn't even have to be a publishing like related project. In my publishing interview, I think I talked about like what I was working on for like a chemical company and a manufacturing company, but I was doing a lot of like the data analysis that would transfer over to publishing. Same thing with like competitor work, right? Like competitor work for a TV company or like a streaming service is very similar to a publishing company. Arguably, it could even be very similar if I was talking about like a grocery or retail company with a publishing company, because the things that you're looking for are quite similar, just industry specific. And those are some of the things you'd want to highlight when you talk through the actual interview process. And then I think unrelated to like the interview itself, it's just your generic like job search things. Like don't pigeonhole yourself, as in don't let yourself be the person to say no. Like just apply and see what happens. Obviously put in the work to make sure your resume's polished, your cover letter like actually matches that company. But just apply. Like who knows? You never know what the doors will open. And then in the interview, like unrelated to like the actual skill set stuff, like you should be able to speak to why you are a good candidate and what you bring to the table. It can be the technical skills itself, but it should also be like who you are as a person, who you are as a team player, like how do you work with someone. And I think for a lot of jobs now, they want to know how does that specific job fit into your broader picture, like career trajectory. The answer can be you're still figuring it out and like you want to try this, or it can be you try something else, didn't like it, and you want to try like this now because it aligns more with what you're interested in. Those are all really like generic things that you would want to prepare for beforehand. But I think like you do the homework and you'll be okay.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good advice. And well, we were talking about this beforehand as well, but I know that you're not in publishing anymore because your internship ended, and I would love to know what you're up to next.
Yeah, I'm working in film strategy now, which is like kind of similar, but also very different, just because the big reason was because I wanted to live in LA, because that's where my family and my boyfriend are. And so I like knew I wasn't going to be anywhere near New York. And then two, I wanted to stay similar within the buckets of entertainment and storytelling. And so like Hollywood, LA, like that fit really well on the job search piece. Um, and what I really like about my current job, or like at least what is in like the current state of film and television, is that so much of it applies or like crosses with publishing and books and just other mediums of storytelling. So like all the adaptations that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And so being able to kind of like bring that expertise as someone who's like, hey, I've worked in publishing, I know books, like this is becoming more popular and this is what we need to be doing. And being able to voice a lot of that has been really fun for me. And hopefully, like, who knows, down the line, maybe I'll end up going back into publishing. But for now, my goal is to bring more of publishing and more of like what I love about publishing into the film industry and getting some of those things adapted.
That's lovely. And at the end of the day, it all goes down to stories that you're
Exactly.
working with. So there is definitely a theme going on.
Yeah.
Well, I probably could stay here forever talking with you, and we'll probably talk a little bit more after I stop recording this. But I don't have any more questions for you as of now. Maybe if you're up to it, I can invite people, because probably people will be excited about knowing what a business analyst does, or what it's like working in publishing in the US. So maybe if you feel up to it, I can let you know if someone leaves a comment on
that would
the
be so
episode,
nice.
and we can get back to them, because, well, unfortunately I did not prepare beforehand and ask questions on stories, so people can just comment. We're all friends here. We'll start a chat.
Exactly.
And yes, I think this is it. I had so much fun. I think this was the best way to end my Sunday. As you can probably tell, it is getting darker outside. So this was the perfect way to end my weekend. And thank you so much for being here. I cannot believe it took us this long to finally chat.
I know. I'm so excited. Now Portugal's back on my like must visit.
Yes, please do come, and I'll gladly be your tour guide.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Okay. I think this is it for anyone listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Tiffany. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments. I don't think that we mentioned your Instagram, by the way.
Oh yes, it's at Read by Tiffany, READBY Tiffany.
You know that for years I had, well, obviously this made sense to me as I got better at English, but for ages it took me forever to realize if it was read or read.
No, I used to say read. I switched. I remember I used to say Read by Tiffany, and then some people started saying read, and then I was like, oh, it's either.
Oh, okay. So now I don't feel.
No, you shouldn't feel bad.
I don't feel out of place right now, because I had forever I had a doubt about it, but then I was like, well, it's by Tiffany, so it should be read, because it was read by Tiffany. So this made sense to me. So okay, so leave a comment on this episode if you have any more questions. Go follow Tiffany, because she's an amazing bookstagrammer, and well, maybe we'll chat a little bit more.